Hello and welcome back, and this week I have mostly been playing with tubular locks. Now I got a couple of tubular locks here. I bought these ages ago when I first started my lock sport journey. Like a lot of people, you buy a couple of locks, you really get the bug for it, and you go out and buy every type of lock that you've ever seen before. And I think at that point I bought these ones. At the time, I didn't have a tubular pick. Now, to pick tubular locks, as I'm sure a lot of you know, all you need is a probe or a flat kind of tool like that, and then some way of tensioning the locks. Now, you can play about with various tensioners in your set, and you might be lucky enough to be able to, apply a bit of tension. But with tubular locks, quite often you've got to pick them more than once in order to get it open. Sometimes you've got to go 360. I think that means picking it like 7 times. And as that middle section moves around as you pick it, you kind of lose places to tension. So those tools aren't that good. And then this was also early on in my lock sport journey, I went out and bought these. I've got to say that these are the most exciting looking tools that I ever bought. I was so excited when they came. And then I played about with them. I had a couple of other tubular locks at the time, and I can never get these to work. I have not had success even once with these. I don't know if that's not the right size one. These come in 3 different sizes. I'm not going to really go and review these. But yeah, that one fits in there. So the idea is you push all of these arms down like that. Line up the arrow with a little notch there. Just see the arrow and the notch. And then you sort of push and twist, push and twist, push and twist. But I've never been able to get these two open. I had a couple of other tubular locks early on in my lock sport journey, and I couldn't open it with those. Now, I know these don't work if you've got different strength springs, but I've tried various ways. I've put it comes with a whole bunch of different bands and things, and I've put those on there, and I've taken it apart and greased it and done all sorts of things, but I've never actually got these to work. So currently, unfortunately, these lay dusty in the back of my drawer. But what I decided to do the other day, I had a flash of inspiration, and I thought, I mean, you can buy tools to tension tubular locks specifically, but I thought what I'd do is try and make them on myself. Now, as I'm sure many of you know, I make custom picks like that one there, and that can involve getting steel blanks, so they come, about sort of 6 inches by about 2, and you shape the steel and make your picks out of it. So I thought I would have a go making my own tubular tensioner, and this is what I've come up with. It's a little bit ugly, but I did polish it up and round off the edges and make it a little bit pretty. Now I kind of made this from memory, seeing other tubular lock tensioners, and I mounted up one of my tubular locks in this snazzy little stand here, just to sort of clamp it. It's just so much easier to clamp it up in the vise when it's in this. Now you can see there, you can't see anything at all. You can see there, it's just like looks a bit like Batman's hat, doesn't it? And I've got one prong kind of thicker than the other one, and then we've got this gap here. So what I figured was the way they work is that top one, the fat one, goes in there like that, and all you've got to do is measure the gap between the lower part of that cutout and the bottom. I think it's about 5 mil from memory. And then you need to make this gap in here just slightly smaller than that. Reason being is because when you put it in like that, trying to get a good shot of this. So you put it in like that, and because the gap in the tool is slightly smaller than the gap between there and there, you're in focus, it actually tensions that middle section, as you can see there. We're just putting tension on it, and then you can tension it, and quite often these aren't that difficult to pick, they're just very tedious to pick, and then you've just got to go around pressing each of the pins. I think these have got, yeah, they've got, you see there, the 7 pins in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's nothing in the center section. And I think to get this particular lock open, you have to pick it 2 positions. So that's 1 and that's 2, and then the lock is open. So I thought what we'll do is we'll test this out on video, test this new tool out on video, and we'll go old school and pick tubular locks pin by pin, rather than using these fancy, exciting, but they don't work for me, tools. So let's get this cranked up in the vise, try and get you a good view of that as I'm picking it, and we can see what it takes to get this open using that funky new tool. So I've got this set up in the vise now, and we'll try and get this one picked. So I've got the largest side there, I put that in the top, and you can just see, so if that gap there between those two prongs was any bigger, then the bottom part of it would just sort of spin around and we wouldn't be tensioning anything. So that's why it's important when you make this tool, or if you make this tool, that the gap is just slightly smaller than the diameter of this center section, taking into account that cutout. Right, now comes the tedious part, which I'll probably speed up because we just need to go around with this probe, finding pins that bind and just giving them a little push. I found that picking these, or at least the ones that I've picked so far, I do need to put a fair bit of tension on. I've got to say that one of the hardest things I find about filming lock sport videos is getting the camera set up so that you get a reasonably good view of what I'm doing, and I'm able to actually do what it is I'm trying to do, because quite often the camera, to get the best view, the camera needs to be where my eyes are, and that means quite often that, you know, I end up bashing the end of the pick into the camera, so that can be quite challenging. Anyway, I'll shut up now and I'll try and get this one picked. Okay, it's just turned to the first position and the lock still isn't open. With this particular lock, we need to pick it to the second position. But it is actually a little bit easier because as you rotate that centre round, you also rotate in the top pins round. And it now means you've only got to pick 6 pins because the pin that was in this position is now in the top position, and there's no driver pin in there. So we only need to pick the 6 remaining pins. So let's try doing that and see if we can't get them open. And there we go. He's just popped open, as you can see there. If this was attached to anything, then we would actually be able to open it. So picking tubular locks isn't that difficult. You just need, you know, a tensioner which you can buy or make. Now, they're not difficult to pick, but they are tedious to pick, and they're doubly tedious because in order to lock this up now, as you can see, it won't lock up. And you can just see, if I turn us around a little bit there, that when we started, this little cutout on the centre post was aligned with that in the 12 o'clock position. It's now in the 9 o'clock position. So in order to actually lock this up, we need to pick it back and just do the opposite of what we've done. And luckily, I mean, I'm not going to do it on camera, but we can. We just put this, in order to pick it and tension it clockwise, we put it in that position. To pick it anti-clockwise, we just move that over to that little pillar there, sorry, little protrusion there is on the other side of that central pillar, and then we can tension it counterclockwise. So in order to lock this back up, I need to pick it another 2 times back that way, because yeah, you can't get the key in. Oh, sorry, knocking the camera. Can't get the key in, can't do anything, and this lock is essentially disabled until we unpick it out of the open position. Well, that was mission success. As you can see, I've not picked this back into the locked position yet. That will perhaps be a job for after this video, but yes, certainly a useful tool. And the probe that I was using was actually a broken pick. It's always worth keeping your broken picks because they do come in handy. I just flatted that one off and we can use that as a probe in this circumstance. So there's the tool if you wanted to have a go at making it yourself. If you've got some of this steel lying around, I'd certainly recommend giving it a go. And the only critical thing on this is that gap there. And all you need to do, as I said in the beginning, was just measure the distance between the bottom of this cutout and the bottom of that center section there, and just make that gap slightly smaller. I don't really have the measurements for this. I just kind of did it by eye, and Mark 1, which this is, was successful. So it gives me access to tubular locks, whereas I didn't really have it before. I mean, if you've got any tips on these, you know, I've tried it with various combination of the elastic bands, but I've never got them to work. But I don't know if that's because the tubular locks that I've had access to play about with aren't really suitable for them. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Highly recommend making one of these and just having a sort of a dick about with the what are they called, tubular locks. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll leave a link up there to subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I'll see you on the next one.